it's funny. A lot of these things, not the more intense stuff that I'm asking like lots of questions on, but a lot of like the Kepler stuff, and I did space systems as an open unit.
Yeah.
So we covered it in my university, and so it's kind of bringing. I literally have not looked at that stuff ever since I left, like at all. But it was one of the things I really preferred, the space system stuff and the helicopter stuff to planes. Like I found planes kind of like, you just put rockets on a thing and then. but it's not even like up, like, because obviously you've got that whole fuel issue and carrying the fuel and propulsion and space propulsion. It's just like, if you put a strap rockets onto something and push it fast enough, you're probably gonna get some kind of flight.
You'll be somewhere else. You'll be somewhere else quite quickly. Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. And actually, that probably, I guess, brings me into a new question kind of place, which is the exploration of space, and how does that tie into kind of what we know? Like, for example, we've got things on Mars at the moment. We've got these trips to the moon. Obviously, people are potentially trying to get to Mars, or I've heard trying to live in space and stuff. But what are the what I guess introduce me into that concept, and then I guess there'll be more questions to follow.
Yeah, so it's long been the ambition of humans to explore, right? And exploration is essentially why we now have humans living all over the surface of the planet, right? They've gone, what's that on the horizon? Let's go have a look, and they find new land, basically. Sometimes you need a boat to do it, right? And so space exploration is looking up at the heavens and go, whoa, what's over there? Why don't we try and get there? Let's try and get there, right? And so H.G. Wells and other major characters in science fiction pushed this forward, right? They said, even though we don't have the technology, what if we have the technology, right? And so there's some very early films and very early books from about 100 years ago, maybe actually going back 150 years now, where people were like, whoa, yeah, one day let's go walk on the moon. I mean, you can maybe build a ladder to get there, right? Well, now you can't do that, but pretty simple experiment actually.
Get a balloon, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, do that. Can you get to the moon? But now we know, it's 400,000 kilometers away. So yeah, it's a pretty big ladder. Anyway, and it's not in the same place when you start climbing the ladder, is it? Anyway, but so it's human exploration, and with exploration comes new technology and new chances for prosperity, because you exploit the environment that you're in. And it's mostly that's a negative term, but when we're farming, we're exploiting the environment. We're changing the environment to help people eat, right? So with space exploration will come a huge leap forward in technology, and it's discovering the unknown, right? And it's the essence of the human spirit that has got us this far, right? The reason we have all of this technology right now, the reason that we can speak over an ocean, is because of the technology developments that have come from human curiosity and exploration. And so the exploration of the solar system by humans it's inevitable. And what we've already seen is that we've sent 12 people to the moon, and they've successfully returned, and that was an amazing accomplishment. But since then, space exploration has been done in low Earth orbit on board the space stations that we've had: Skylab, Mir, the International Space Station, and with vehicles like the Space Shuttle and the Soyuz. And now we're seeing commercial exploration as well. So companies are getting involved. They're thinking that they can make money, and I think they're right. They can make money out of the exploration of space.
That was a thing quite integral to the space race and why it stopped for so long, wasn't it? It was kind of like there was
so one of the roles of government in this is to put in the money up front to do all of the risky stuff, to understand the physics and the engineering that needs to go in it, and then let the commercial market take over. We saw this with we saw this to some extent with airplanes. So the government kind of regulates air flights and has put in a lot of money to make it safe, right? It wasn't just the Wright brothers went, hey, off we go. People stepped in and said, well, now you've done that. Yeah, now
not
you've
around
done
that time when there were like no parachutes and like all
exactly.
these kind of,
Oh,
yeah,
and
it's first flight could be your last, basically.
It's important to bear in mind, of course, that some of this technology isn't developed for honorable purposes, right? So our understanding of rocket technology is a result of the Nazis, right? And it was the technology developed to bomb London during the Second World War is the same technology that got humans to the moon.
Yeah, crazy,
isn't it? Yeah. So the exploratory curiosity of the human race is part of being a human, and we've long been wishing for or thinking for hundreds of years about exploring the moon and Mars, and now we have the International Space Station. We've had the success of the Apollo missions, the success of the International Space Station, the ongoing success of the International Space Station, whereby there have been humans in orbit of the Earth now for 19 years. Right? There's always been somebody on board the International Space Station since 2001, I think. And now there are astronauts on board the International Space Station that were taken there by a commercial vehicle, the Crew Dragon capsule on top of a Falcon 9. So now it's a company, SpaceX, that's taking people to the space station. And so now NASA can say, right, we've got a way to get to the space station. Now let's get away back to the surface of the moon. And they're doing that with commercial partners, right? So it's SpaceX and Blue Origin and Dynetics that have been contracted to figure out how to land people on the surface of the moon. And my role at Kennedy Space Center is, once they get there, let's keep them safe.
Yeah.
Let's understand the risks, because it's not an environment that humans can survive in naturally. And that's the big difference, right? Is human exploration of the surface of the Earth. There are some extreme places like high altitude and extreme depth where humans can't survive, of course. But for the most part, we have been exploring, if you step outside, you're all right.
up until recently.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah. You'll probably be all right. But don't risk it. Don't risk it. Yeah. So the moon is a challenging environment, but it's an environment that is relatively easy to get to. We know we've done it before. If there's a major disaster on the surface of the moon, you could get some relief there within a few days, and that's the big difference with Mars. If there's a major disaster on Mars, that's it. Nobody's coming to rescue you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to touch on the space living stuff last, but